The last time I was here, I hadn't read in Guildford for about 3.5 years. So unaccustomed as I was to public speaking, I came here. A lot of the people who were here came to see me, which is very nice, and I was incredibly, terribly terrified. And then I sort of getting used to the idea now again. I'm backed up by cards, so I've nothing to worry about that. One of the things about reading in a library is that I'd run out of books. And I had to go up to the library up there, and I had to take myself out.
Oh,
that's very strange to be going to a shelf and think, oh yes, this is a good book. And as I was taking out, a lady said, oh, is it good? And I said, yeah. She said, who wrote it? And I said, well. And I lied, and I said that he wrote it. Now, strange, this is called the Fox, the Whale, and the Wardrobe. And funny enough, when you publish poems and all that, you might not like them. You think, oh, why did I put that in and all that? But this is a poem that I actually like out of my own book. How about that? And it's a very insignificant moment. I don't know why memory brought it back to me. I'm playing handball against the cottage wall in 1963 with Sam the collie dog, and a memory brings this insignificant thing back. And I think, why? Why? And the reason why is that the ball, the wall, the dog, the me, the sky, the trees are all welded together in one. A total fusion of experience in this one moment. And that's why the moment is important. It's called Ball Goes AWOL. The ball is laughing. It is having a great time being thrown against the wall. Whee! Screams its trajectory. Parabola, 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 hollers the ball. I throw it towards the wall, and the wall throws it back at me. Ball and wall and I having a fine old time. Again, again, shout both ball and wall. It is a fine thing for a summer day to contain. Human, ball and wall, all enjoying the moment intensely. Memory will warp the reality and morph it into a movie continually replaying, as if all happiness exists in this little snippet of time and space. Sam the collie leaps through the air and with perfect timing catches the ball in his mouth. Ah! Ah! Screams the ball. Damn! Damn! Shouts the wall. Hey! I holler! But Sam is gone, smiling all over himself. Where he drops the ball, I never get to know. The ball has gone AWOL for well nigh over 50 years now. The wall is no longer standing. Sam is only now a black and white photograph. Only I and the moment keep happening in the attic of my head. Thank you. There's a little book called Jerry Sweeney's Mammy. And I'll read. I was a turtle son. My younger brother was not only my dad reincarnated, but he was the spitting image of him. He was a clone of my dad. So much so that if we saw old photographs of my dad, we'd go, oh, there's Brian. We'd go, hold on a second. That's my dad. That's how much. And he had all the practical thing that my dad did and all that. I didn't. I was escaping my sister's death, and I ran into the fields of literature, which was a surprising way to escape because I was highly dyslexic. And it took me ages to bloody well read. Ages. And I was 9, and I was reading Five Go to Treasure Island at the same time as I was reading Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. And I had need of both things. So, and I didn't learn my alphabet. I was in secondary school, and I didn't know my alphabet. I only knew it up to G, I think. And if Sesame Street hadn't come and rescued me, and Grover said, hey, Tony, baby, you know the next letter easy, I tell you. And I think, right, thank you, Grover. And that's how I learned my alphabet. Woo! So me writing poems and reading books is a big major achievement for me. So this is called So Pricket Him the Tour in Her Garages, which is shorter, of course, and it means that when spring comes, it's going to start bird and beast and man and girl all to spring into blossom. So pricket him the tour in her garages. Never did help my da enough. always head stuck in a book. Dónall, son, he'd call, can you hold this while I saw? Oh, da, I'd wail, me lost in Chaucer and his tale. And so the saw saws, but all I hear is, yo, the miller was a chap of 16 stone, a great big fellow, big and brawn and bone. The saw cuts through the afternoon, pauses, then Chaucer's on again. He did well out of him, for he could go and win the ram at any wrestling show. Say what? Oh, don't get me wrong, I adore the aesthetic beauty of sawdust floating in a universe of its own, suspended in sunlight and shadow. The smell of pine kidnapping my mind, the green dance of the bubble in a spirit level. Didn't have time for all that hammering and sawing. I was a boy on a mission, ever since our teacher sighing, oh, I don't know why I teach you scruff, Chaucer, you'll never read the book. But by the weekend, furious at the rebuff, I had. My poor old dad only getting begrudging help. When that April, the words falling like gentle rain upon my mind, with a sure sota that dropped the march, words, oh sweet words, had passed to the rota, my mind bawed at every vine in switch liqueur, the bubble in the spirit level poised perfectly poised, of which for two on Jondreth is the floor. Now let's see what else. And you might wonder why this fiver is sticking as a marker out of my book. But I was going to buy a bookmarker, and it was a fiver. So I thought, well, let's put the fiver in instead. Oh. Now, I used to be Ireland's first poet in residence in a secondary school back in Ireland. And they lent me out one day to the Scouts, and I had to read to 7-year-old Scouts, and I thought, oh, this is hard. And then the next day they rented me out to a little old ladies' home. And all war veterans and all their husbands. And they were busy telling me all these fantastic tales about swimming in the Indian Ocean, diving off aircraft carriers, having a jolly time in Singapore and all that. And so you're going to have to pretend for this that I'm actually Mabel, okay? And this is the first time I actually heard the term. So it's called, well, Kiss My Popliteal Fossa. Does anybody know where your popliteal fossa is?
On the back of the knee.
Good girl.
I've heard the poem before, John.
Cheating.
So, this is how I came to hear the term. So I'm Mabel for the benefit of this poem. I remember the golden tassels of my dress touching the back of my knees as I was kissed for the very first time, bent over in a cinch and a clinch as if we were statuary. The tassel's touch exquisite in itself, much more sensual than the actual kiss, as I wondered, his tongue dancing with my tonsils, if there was a name for that sort of thing. The back of the knees, I mean. Okay, Freddie, I commanded, seeing as I seem to be in command here. That's quite enough of that. Shattered, he reluctantly took his tongue out of my cheek. Cheeky bugger, I thought. Should never have let him go that far. Crestfallen, he stammered a sorry. You won't tell my mother, will you? I hid his erection with his topper. I went in at once and asked the father, is there a name for the back of the knees? Of course there is, my love. It's your popliteal fossa. I tingled to my toes, having discovered my first erogenous zone, and knowing that one day I would become a doctor. When I first came over to here, I was down in Camden, and there was, it's still full of punks today. There was a guy on the bridge the other day when I went up, and he had a punk, and he had a sign that said £2 for a photograph, and it was make a punk drunk. I thought, right, okay. But the punk I met had the typical mohawk and everything like that, and he had pins through his cheeks like that. And I looked at it, and it led to a very long leash that a punkess was holding. And she was just looking at stuff, and when she was ready, and he just stood there like that. And when she was ready, she just went, yank! And he went, and I thought, whoa, no way. So, I first met my first English figure, and he was like the Michelin man, like that. And his wife said, "Oh, you come to see George. He's outside on the lawn doing his flowers." And I went out, and there was this half-naked man with an enormous belly, and he had the hose like this go shh. And I thought he was peeing, and I thought, "Oh, he said you come to see my garden, have you?" So this is called the nurture of culture. "Have you a working pulse?" the vicar asked of his prized petunias. They perk up at once to the Pericles. She sent him away cold as a snowball, he whispers to his gladiole. Once again, the Pericles does the trick. They positively beam at him, eager for more Shakespeare. Oh yes, flowers," the vicar eagerly pontificates, "adore Shakespeare, especially Pericles and the other minor plays, rather than the Great Dane or Othello. I hardly believe the flowers' bardolatry. The vicar's garden is a paradise. The herbs prefer Gilbert and Sullivan," he informs me, as if it were ordinary. "Really?" I gasped disbelievingly. "Aha, be my guest," he offers in good faith. Attentively approached a sprig of oregano. It looks startled, being sung to. "Poor wandering one, though you were sad and lonely, no, my son, herbs like to be spoken to, not sung." And this time perhaps the correct words he offers admonishingly. He preaches as if from a pulpit, a congregation of herbs and flowers hanging on his every word, eager believers. Ahem, I tentatively begin again. "Poor wandering one, though thou hast surely strayed, the oregano dances in the breeze, it is so very pleased. Or sometimes, my son, a little dash of an old coward. What compulsion compels them, and who the hell tells them?" I sing to the chives before being interrupted as before. No, my son, spoken, not sung." Why do the wrong people travel, while the right people stay at home? Excellent. One of their favourites, dear boy. What could I possibly say? His voice provoked such a fecundity that could not be for a second doubted, although doubt I did. Oh yes, when one talks to one's garden, one must bear in mind that flowers and herbs prefer, how should one say, a little culture. I tried out at home, it doesn't work at all. But I prefer to sing rather than talk to them. My little girl had disappeared. Open door. I thought, where is she? And I said, "Tilly!" And I couldn't see her. I said, "Where are you?" And she said, "I'm here under this cloud." As if that was a permanent marker. And I was going, right. I looked around, there was a couple of clouds, but I finally found her. So her definition of coordinates was very different than her dad's. So this is called Here I Be. South of the buzzing of a hairy bumblebee, north of the big dog's bark, west of the breeze tickling cherry blossom trees, east of the sunlight stealing over the fields, that's where you will find me. I think I shall leave you on. I've got no. This is called Teaching Timothy to Read. She is teaching Timothy to read, even though she can't read herself. Thumb firmly in cheek, she traces the word with a tiny fingertip that knows the story off by heart. She could read it in the dark. She is pretending reading. She has my every nuance and pause by rote, making great efforts to teach Timothy the puppy. But Timothy the puppy is more interested in the unthrown stick. Timothy thinks this reading lark is strictly for the humans. Once she begins in a fairy tale-ish voice. Timothy barks in acknowledgement. Throw the stick, throw the stick, throw the stick, Timothy minds think. Upon a time, a long time ago, Timothy looks adoringly at his little mistress with such an immensity of love and licks her finger as it travels over the words, the story's journey. Oh, you, she scolds, I'm not even paying attention. It's no good, I give up. She frowns at the unhappy creature, throwing the book away in a prissy, hissy fit. Timothy the puppy, full of the joys of a dog's life, it's the only life he knows, chases the fluttering pages that fly like an exotic bird, brings Hans Christian Andersen back his mouth full of words. And finally, Kyle was asking me for a definition of poetry. Not about just wrote them in for that. Sorry, Kyle. And this is called a corporal's definition of poetry. Now, a corporal's definition of poetry is not to be taken very seriously at all. I'd just become a soldier, and we were doing bayonet practice. Corporal's definition of poetry. The perfect summer's day, the sky a postcard blue. Hate distorted voices, faces chanting, stick it in his guts. A lark ascending throws itself against the vault of heaven, only to be rejected. Make it hurt, twist it about, bastard. God has a sixth sense of humour to have bayonet practice on such a perfect day. The world whirlpools down the plug hole of Corporal Orable's almighty mouth. He hates me because I, Private Dempsey D, A35572, am not showing enough hate to kill a sandbag. Sweat trickles down my spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. The sandbag sucks the blade in and won't give it back. I pull it out and fall upon my derriere. The sandbag bleeds sand, mocks my efforts, which displaces the book I have about my person. What's this? What's this? Corporal Orable hisses. A book, Corporal. I can bloody well say it's a book. A poetry book, Corporal. In parentheses, by David Jones. In what's it? You think I'm tick or what? What, Corporal? Don't you want me, sonny Jim? His spit peppers my face. There isn't enough white space around the words for it to be a poem. That's not an accurate definition of a poem, Corporal. He froths at the mouth, tears the book in half, throws it over his shoulder. Why, you impudent little pup, get that rifle up, up, up. He runs me around the training ground 3 times and then 3 times again. Later I go back and find only half of the book, the half I have already read. A sheep is nibbling it, but like the corporal, it isn't to his taste. Over 40 years go by, and here I am, an ex-army man, finishing the second half of David Jones in parentheses, remembering all too well the hell of running around the training ground 3 times, and then 3 times some more, with my rifle up above my head. Oh, the agony of bearing arms, remembering too never to argue with a corporal's definition of poetry during the bayonet process.